Okay. No. Okay. Welcome to all. I'm calling us to meeting to order at 6:04. Okay. 6:04. And we have everyone here. So we have to do roll call. If we could go alphabetically. Thank you, Dean.
Dean Briggs here.
Alan
Christine.
Pratt here.
Christine Latini.
DL here,
Barrow here.
AP here, DN here. Did you speak, Jim?
No, I didn't hear you, but yes, I'm here. Jim
Oh,
Webster
yes,
here.
yes, me. I'm sorry. Yes, GP here and JW here. Okie dokie. All right. So, Dave, you having to leave just before 7, correct, Amondo?
Yes, about 10 to 7. Yes, this is
Okay.
unfortunately
So
is my new normal.
Let's try and have a very efficient meeting then, everybody. Shall we go? Ready to rock and roll? Okay, so
Yep.
First item on our agenda is 2 sets of minutes circulated, I think yesterday, day before, right? How about we take them one at a time in case we have to make corrections? Does that make sense? So let us start with okay, January minutes. Which I'm hoping you've all had a chance. I'll entertain a motion to accept January
Make a
minutes.
motion to accept the January 2025 minutes.
I'll second them.
Okay, Deanne. Okay. DB. Okay, discussion, everybody. In other words, typos.
I didn't see any, but then I'm no Dave Notaro, so.
No, well, we sort of, most of us have got used to sitting back and letting Dave, followed by Dean, chip in. So,
I'll pass these on to Dean.
I saw
Okay.
nothing. They looked fine
Dean.
to me.
okay.
Great.
Any further discussion? Nope. All those in favor of accepting the draft minutes, please, as a roll call vote, right?
Dean, aye.
Dean, right? Who's next? Who's next?
Christine Latini. I.
Christine Latini,
Dave
LMN.
Barrow, aye.
Yeah, Alan,
Yeah.
I.
Yeah, Gloria Parkinson, I, and
Jim Webster, aye.
okay, approved. Let's do the same for the next set of minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes as written.
Okay, motion to
Seconded.
approve. This is the February meeting minutes. Okay. All right, that was DB. Was there the second?
I did.
Second.
Christine, okay. Christine L. Okay. All right, discussion.
I saw
Dave?
nothing.
I saw nothing.
Anyone else found anything that they?
Nope.
No, okay. Then let us have a motion to accept in roll call, DB, okay,
Aye.
Christine Latini. I.
okay.
Dave
Alan
Barrow,
Pratt,
aye.
I.
Alan Pratt, yes, LMND, me next, yes. Gloria Parkinson, and I think I heard Dave on the, yeah, and finally,
Jim
Yep.
Webster, aye.
okay, approved.
Kudos on the clean minutes.
Yes, this is amazing.
Thank you.
Well, it probably won't ever happen again, everyone, so enjoy the moment. Okay, so, discussion document sent out. Oops. Discussion document going through the agenda, just moving my pages around here. Oh, did mine not print off? Oh, I don't believe it. Oh, please. No, it did. Yes, okay. Okay. All right, everybody. So, following down with the agenda and the discussion document together. So the adaptive land management, trails and equipment maintenance, suggestion at this moment to maybe discuss some very specific volunteer tasks for April the 26th for the volunteer day. So your
Can I
thoughts?
suggest,
Yeah.
having skimmed but not read in detail the new forest management report,
Yep.
it might be a good thing, maybe even at the expense of not digging out some of that old fence. We've got most of the fence that's really in the way. To take some groups into the woods, especially up into the white pines up in the top, and go after cutting back. Um, 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 what am I talking about? The climbing, the bittersweet.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. Because I know it's been a bit since I have to reread it again.
Yeah, but he does comment on that in particular. We know there's still a lot in there. We have to go out and hunt for it. But
Yeah.
again, we can't yet do anything like poisoning it, but we can cut it off at the base, unwrap as much as we can around a tree. And as long as we keep doing that from time to time, that'll at least, protect it from spreading further. He does say in there that ideally we should cut it and then poison it from the top, but we can't do that unless we change our policy. But at the very least, we've done this before, but we haven't gone through and looked for all of it. When we find it, we've happened to hack away at it, but
Okay.
that would be
So
a good thing. That would be a good thing that volunteers could do without a lot of supervision. We'd always have to have, some of us in there with them, but they could break up into a couple of parties.
thoughts, everybody, focused on some invasive management based on the updated forest stewardship plan.
Will we be able to identify it by April 26th? Will
I
it be leaked
know-
out enough?
I know
Because-
that, I think all of us can, I think Dean and Alan and I and Dave can. Volunteers would need somebody, one of us with them to point out what's what.
Okay.
Although once you see it, it's hard not to see it once you see it.
We
Just
could
so it's-
investigate it ahead of time too.
And it's just something to be able
yeah,
to identify the bittersweet versus, just be able to identify the bittersweet versus the poison ivy before we do a number on our volunteers.
Yeah,
That's
they're usually the poison ivy, and I'm just saying typically, is usually around the forest edge. And once you get in there, the bittersweet is, not that there is no poison ivy, but it's not nothing like the density you get right around the edge between the forest and the fields.
Sounds good to me.
and we can actually.
I was gonna,
Yes, Dave.
sorry, I was gonna say, do we have any, I know at one time, I think we had, I think Jim had picked up some marking, paint that you use for marking the ground. Jim, do we still have some of that?
I have several colors that I got for marking trees, for trail marking. There either was
Okay.
or still is, there was some like orange paint I got to spray on the ground that's like temporary paint. I mean, it's supposed to wash off eventually.
Yep.
And we could always get more
Well,
of
what I'm
that.
thinking is maybe we go out beforehand and take and tag some of those, some of the bittersweet vines beforehand, and it could save us a little bit of time. You know,
Yeah,
on
I think
cleanup
that
day.
would, yes. Well, that would make perfect sense, right? Rather than having volunteers hanging around while we and ah, and meanwhile exposing them to body-wide poison ivy attack. It
Also,
means,
and also
Yep.
this could be one of several. We could still have some people doing the fence, but most of the fence that's left is actually a greater risk for poison ivy than this is, because the remaining fence is mostly laying down along the edge of the pasture, between the pasture and the railroad bed, that stretch. It's flattened out down into the grass and the dirt where it literally is tangled in with poison ivy and whatever else is growing around it.
we want to take a look of that though as well as part of the April 26th.
Well, we can, depending on who we
Yeah,
have
see
for
how many we have.
but
So say we have those two activities.
Yeah.
Right? Yes,
But
I'm
I
asking.
am saying that remaining fence, there may be still a little bit more fence, possibly between the pasture, between the grassland and the pasture, where that little wooded passageway goes through. There is still some standing fence in there that would be reasonably easy and safe for people to take down. There's not a lot of it. I know
Okay.
there's a lot of it flattened out along the edge of that field, but that flattened out literally is trampled into the ground where
Okay,
you're.
supposing we combine
risking-
Dave's suggestion, right?
Yeah.
We're out there ahead of time and we are marking bittersweet around trees and reasonably accessible fencing that could be got up.
Yeah.
And we mark them. And even if we don't get them all done on April the 26th, the marking will be there to go back with other volunteers over the summer.
Okay, can I just say one more thing too?
Yeah.
Bird boxes. When we cleaned those out in the fall, we left at least 3 of them because there were field mice happily living in them. So we need, and I can't remember exactly which ones they were. So we need to check all the boxes, clear out anything left behind by the field mice. And hopefully if the field mice are still there, they'll be willing to leave by now, but I'm not quite sure what the, nesting cycle and breeding cycle of field mice is, but it is time for the birds to move in.
Well, we should do that. I think the nesting box is like this month, not wait till April the 26th. That's my thought on that.
Yeah, again, I'm just trying
Seen
to be
one
not,
eastern bluebird already.
The bluebirds are already going in?
I saw one.
Okay, so I'm making a note. I'm going to put nesting boxes as a
I could,
high,
I
as
could,
a high pry.
I could clean us out this weekend.
Could you, Alan? That would be great.
Yeah, yeah.
Because even if we disturb the mices, they are not going to freeze to death anymore. I mean, they'll go and nest somewhere else on the ground, yes? We're not
Well,
killing, we're not,
yeah.
we're
There's
doing no harm.
some small risk that there may be nesting, hatching young mice, but I mean, that's probably, I don't have any idea what their cycles are, but I mean, it is what it is, right?
Well, we're trading off bluebirds with
I know,
the
yes.
next generation of mice, and I have a feeling, given mice's ability to reproduce, they'll
I'm
win
sure we
out
all,
in the
yes, right.
end.
More than rabbits, right?
Yeah, more than so.
Are we
Okay, so
having a rain date for April 26th?
oh, good thought, good thought. This is Christine, who does all of the promo materials, would think of these things, whereas I just crash on. Okay, so April the 26th was the date.
Would be May 3rd would be the following Saturday.
Okay. Okay, what do you think, gang? How available are we on May 3rd for the rain date? Unless
Good
it's an,
question. I can't check right now.
okay,
Open right now.
open right now.
And
Let's put it as the rain date.
Yep.
Unless
And-
it's an absolutely torrential downpour, we go ahead with the 26th.
And are you requesting registration so you can put together teams?
I think based on the past, it's better to just do that ad hoc, depending on who turns up and,
Okay,
sort of assessing the size and skill sets and, willing to risk your poison ivy or cuts or whatever goes with some of the jobs,
okay.
No, rain dates are notorious for no one showing up. We offer it, but I mean, we
Now, if
did
anyone would
do
like to get
it last
together-
year. Yes, sorry, Dave. I
I'm
stepped
sorry,
on you.
Nicole, I don't mean to try to speak over you.
No, please
just
do,
gonna say,
because
you
otherwise
know-
I'm not sure. Because you're on the phone.
If anybody wants to get together, whenever, to go out and do the marking, kind of jumping back a little bit, just let me know. My availability is pretty decent. Usually Tuesday afternoons I'm tied up. Other than that, I'm available. Somebody, send me a text if you want to get together and do that.
Okay. So we're going to have a sub-team to
Right.
mark, okay?
And I have to get out and check cameras and swap batteries. I know I got 2 cameras right now where the batteries died over the winter, and I didn't want to go out there in the snow to get to them.
So
So we
how
could-
about we organize the tag party, scheduling it via email, right? Because Alan's taking care of he's disabusing the mices and making space for the eastern bluebirds, okay? So doesn't have to be done immediately, but it'd be good to go and poke around and see what we've got. And if possible, I'd like to come with you because I'm not quite sure where we are with all the fencing and stuff at this point either. All right,
Alan, if you're gonna do the bluebird boxes, one of those boxes, I think you were with us, we were together at the time, I think. That the one that's way over by the that marsh that's between the grassland and the railroad bed.
Yeah,
There's one where the mounting bracket is so loose, it's not really staying up on the pole anymore. Which means we need to
Okay.
replace or tighten that bracket or shim it or something just to make it hold. If need be, I can certainly improvise something. I know I've got odds and ends of clamps in the cellar, and there's probably some in either the the tool cabinet or one of those tool, boxes and bins in the barn.
all right. I'll see what I can find, and can't find, if I can't find a bracket or something like that, I'll see if I can make a shim to
Yeah, as I'm saying, if the
to
bracket's too big, you can probably just slip
temporarily
a
take
shim
care of
under
it.
it.
Yeah.
Just a shim between the
Okay.
bracket and the pole should do.
I can cut a shim. Yeah. Okay.
okay. Everybody good? Move on.
Yeah.
Well, as you know, we're doing, oh, I wanted to talk about No Mow May. We were full of good intentions and we sort of half got our act together, I think. So if I recall, we said we would mow because of ticks in front of the barn area, right?
That's what we did last year.
And,
The area where the picnic tables is and where, where people have to get out of their cars and go to the, to the porta potty and stuff like that. Otherwise, we're exposing people to ticks, but otherwise we don't have to mow all of the normal lawn area down, down behind and around behind that old foundation and stuff that we.
yeah, I would like us to not mow the picnic table area so we can because that's where the signage would go that would have the most, well, this is what I'm proposing, would have the most educational benefit. If the no mow signs don't start until behind the farmhouse, there's no educational benefit to this program.
Well, last
No.
year we decided the grass was getting so high, we decided we had to mow it just to protect anybody who's coming and sitting at those tables, but we can,
If we mow
whatever.
around them, in other
I'm
words, a
sorry.
partial mow.
Well, the point is that lawn where the picnic tables are, people would have to walk through that to get to the tables or
Yeah,
whatever.
but
So
if each table had a pathway from the road to the table and then around the table, right?
We could do that.
Right? But the other areas on the far sides away from the tables,
Yeah.
we can do a no mow and put signs up.
Okay, we can do that, yeah.
Can we sort of,
Yeah, and weed whack under the tables.
yes, in other words, we make the tables as tick free as possible.
And also around the porta potty.
Yes, well, that side, I think we have to do all along the whole side of the barn, around the corner to the porta potty, and depending on what the accessibility of parking, in other words, stepping out of your car and then going to the clamshell road and walking down. In other words, we're trying to make it as tick-free as possible in terms of accessibility.
I have a question on logistics. If we're not mowing until June, what does that mean for the ability of equipment to get in there and actually cut effectively if we don't mow it all in May? I know that in my own lawn, that if it goes beyond a certain point, the mower does not function in the high, tall, clumpy, wet grass.
And
Right.
that's true with us too. In the past, when that's happened, we've just used a brush cutter.
Okay.
So we get a choppier cut. It's not as pretty, but it does the job, a couple of
Okay.
inches, well, 4 inches high instead of 3 inches high or whatever.
I didn't
That's
know
good.
if the terrain would allow for the brush cutters in those areas, but if that's the case, if that's accessible to the brush cutter, that's great.
Yeah, we've done that before. The lawnmower is actually cuts wider than the brush cutter, and as long as the grass isn't too high, is a nice tool. But once the grass gets high, that mower isn't. The engine's not that strong in that one either. It stalls out pretty easily if the grass is wet or very high.
Now, okay, we're good on that. We have a strategy. Signage. we didn't, did we or did we not have signage? I'm totally blanking on this. Did we or did we not? We can find available, rather than, reinventing the wheel. There is, I believe, Christine, available signage for purchase. Do you want to could you delegate me and Christine for this? It's simple stick in the ground yard signage.
No
Well,
more,
for
May
no
we
mo-
are feeding the bees. Is that all you need on the sign?
Well, the program's called No Mo May.
Right. Most of the
Right.
signs I'm seeing online pre-made say that it's talking about feeding the bees in particular.
Yes.
Okay, they are available. They range with shipping probably $25.
Or how many?
One.
Oh.
Might be less it might be less if you group the
Yes, there might
shipping.
be
We can talk
okay.
about it offline, but
We
they
can
are
talk about
available.
it.
Yep.
Okay, fine. So that's me and Christine, okay? For signage for No Mo May. All right. All right. Moving along, right? Okay. Well, we haven't talked to Sam Bell yet, right? It's a bit early. Jim, is it early to
early.
talk to? Bit too early?
It is too early. Need to check with
Okay.
him come, midsummer.
Right, for late October.
For mowing late October, but need to connect with him sooner
Yes.
just to make sure he.
Yes, okay. All right, right, and the other thing is the rusty fence. Well, we've just agreed we're going to look at it. Maybe we're adding to what's already in the barn. Thank you, Alan, for putting it in the barn. And then at that point, we call DPW and take the whole lot out again. All right, so galloping along like a herd of turtles. No update on the history of the farmhouse at the moment. It's been a really busy week with some other things, which we can talk about in a few minutes when we get to them. So I haven't followed up on that. And the barn electricity, which we discussed last meeting, I need to get hold of national. Well, I need to get hold of national. Well, I'm not sure the orders to do this, given how the town is operating at the moment, whether Brian Farragher has to get hold of the national grid, or whether I get hold of him to delegate me on our behalf to get hold of national grid about the option and costs of getting electricity to the barn from that pole. So I have to go back to Brian, see who has authority to actually talk to national grid. Or is that okay, everybody?
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
I've the Zoom review tomorrow. I've just sent myself the Zoom invite, and I will send it out to all of you should anyone be available. Thank you, Christine. Thank you, Dave, for your feedback. And everyone, you might have done it, but if you are available, join in there. I want to go page by page through it. I just don't want an odd skim of this, right? So I'm just going to have him talk through the whole thing page by page so that we really understand and can do exactly what we've just done at this meeting, which is come up with even a simple plan to start things in motion. All right. So join in if you happen to be available at 2 o'clock tomorrow for the Zoom. Okay. How did I get into that? Was all climate resiliency. Yes, blah, blah, blah. That was part of climate resiliency. I jumped a bit. Electricity, farmhouse, historical, not yet. Nursery got, okay. I've got one thing out of order here. Never mind. Number 4 on the discussion document. This is the nursery site, nursery garden site. Okay. We have a plan to purchase more plants. We have also had recommendations from the 2 women who ran the Winter Sow, Giancarlo Halpus and Freddie Gillespie, that we don't have enough species variety. We do have authorization from the Conservation Commission to plant as long as it's from the Robert Gougier list. So we don't have to keep going back to ask, a daisy at a time for that. So I would suggest that we have an educational off session, that would be you, Jim, and I don't know who else wants to come in on it, as to what we're actually going to plant in addition to what we've already got, and the purchase of same.
All right, you, Jim, who is you?
What? You, Jim? Yes, you, Jim.
You said you and Jim, who
No,
is,
I meant you, Jim.
oh, I
No
thought you said you and
no
Jim.
and.
Okay.
Just you, Jim.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Dean, are you available since you worked
Dean?
on a lot of this back when? or-
yeah.
Available for what?
Brainstorming what else we put in the pollinator garden this year.
The actual planning tasks, you mean?
Planning, yes.
Well,
The
as
planting, or are you talking about the selection of plant species?
Selection of plants,
selection of additional plants.
Sure,
so we can also get orders in before,
Right.
sure.
And I'm going to reach out to Giancarlo and Freddie and say, what have you got? Because they seem to have a lot. Unfortunately for the winter sow, I could not plant because I was too busy, buzzing around, hosting the event and taking pictures. I did check last night if any of the CGCT people who were present for the winter sow had germinated anything yet, but they hadn't really looked for some time, so I don't know, and they wouldn't be parting with them anyway. Alan, I know you planted. Any sign of things in your milk cartons?
Not since the last time I looked, but it was at least a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
But
Okay.
I planted four containers,
Okay.
4-gallon containers, so I'll check it
So
out.
we need to keep in touch with you, right? As well, in case something pops up
Yep.
in your milk containers. All right. So we should always, even if Alan is not part of the subgroup, we should always CC Alan because he has potential plants. Thank you, Alan, for doing
Sure.
that. All right, but again, because you have to get the order in, otherwise they all sell out. And it's now March. All right, gang. So we should have one of our consults within a week.
So
would
I will
suggest.
wait for you all we'll schedule an offline call, will we, where we review the lists and make decisions? Is that what our
Yes,
plan?
we will be having a work party.
Right.
a
Okay.
work party, you mean an online work party, correct?
Yes, a Zoom work party, which is allowed under
Yeah.
open meeting law. Okay,
Mhm.
to review the list and what we're going to buy. Okay. Then we'll come back to you guys and say, here's what we want to. Okay. Going along? Yes. Any other thoughts? Stop me if I'm rattling along like a trolley bus. Well, the invasive species control updates. Yes, everything grows. But yes, if we could work on that woodland stuff, that would be excellent. Excellent. And anything else we see cropping up.
Just to ask at this, just to ask at this point, but to keep it brief, are we targeting certain specific areas of, say, regrowth, that sort of thing, or how are we thinking about this?
Well, looking at the new forestry report, which is similar to the old one, but it's actually is more granular. And they did mention in particular that, that huge white pine forest, but basically that whole hilltop and all the way down to the side, we know there's a lot of bittersweet in there. There's other stuff in there as well, but the bittersweet is easy to identify. There's buckthorn, which is again mostly along field edges. We could go after that too, but the big thing is go after the bittersweet that climbs and strangles the trees.
Yeah.
There's also a lot of Japanese barberry, but that's mostly in among rocks, and you can't really just cut. I mean, it's really nasty stuff. It's got nasty thorns that'll go right through you, and which is why the deer won't eat it. It's why it just grows. I think we just have to just leave that for the time being. All we can do with that is just how to keep whacking it back when we see it. But
So when you say hilltop, you're referring to the top of the grasslands there?
no, the big, the big hilltop where all the white pines are, up by Clamshell Pond, that whole huge
Oh,
forested
okay.
hill. Yeah.
All right.
But
So if
there also is, if you go in that, that wooded strip between the grasslands and the pasture, where we cut that pathway through, years ago,
Yep.
there's quite a bit in there as well, and I'm sure if we went down on the side through the awful tangle where all those red pines are between us and the rail bed, there's probably a lot in there, but we just have to sort of choose a target and go for it rather than
Yeah.
just spread ourselves too thin.
I think that's very important, that if we identify 1 or 2 areas for this growing season
Okay.
and focus on them, and then make a note of other stuff as we're seeing it, but not get distracted by underachieving because the area is just too big, right?
One thing he did mention, if you look at that whole forested wetland area that runs beside the grassland down towards the beaver dam and all of that whole area in there, he's actually designated that as, quite, pretty good forest, pretty good diverse forest with lots of hardwood that probably needs less attention than any place else we own right now. So
Yeah. Well,
should
may
just
I
let that be.
suggest that we have an outline here tonight, but let's get through the review tomorrow of the plan,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Because if he's really identifying things, then we can come up with the list at our next meeting and say, here's our high pry, here's
Yeah.
a medium pry, etc. And the other thing to remember is we also have a second volunteer day in the fall.
Yeah.
So we're not trying to get this, done in one blast. We're spreading it out throughout the growing season. But if we start to document very specifically where we're looking and what we've done, then we have a rationale to all of this. That would be, and that's based on his report.
Can I also mention from that report, not for a volunteer day, but for those of us who are like the regular volunteers, he went into much more granular on tree girdling than was in the former report.
Yeah.
And he actually gave really pretty good specific advice on how to select trees, again, up in that huge white pine hilltop, how to select trees based on their, what do they want, like a southeast exposure, what's close to them, to clear out the ones that are basically close to healthy, desirable hardwoods. So we could actually, presumably after we talk to him tomorrow, we could presumably go through on our own, carefully select some of those big white pines for girdling, so that eventually they will become standing snags. And eventually, when they die off, it'll open up some sunlight to the lower forest, et cetera. But he basically gave us some pretty good guidance on how to do that. We should discuss that tomorrow with him.
Okay, and we've talked about this in years gone by, right?
Well, we did in theory, but we were then going to see if we can get some specific advice on how to select the trees. But I
And
think
we
he's
didn't
done that
know, and
for
that
us in the
never happened,
report.
right?
Yeah,
And then
right.
there was COVID and everything.
Yeah,
Okay,
right.
so, yeah, so there's going to be a lot of goodies coming out of this review tomorrow. Okay, everybody?
Mhm.
Does that answer your question, Dean?
Yep.
That we have, okay. Right, so, okay, so I'm saying that really covers invasive species control, right? And you brought up the good points, is identifying and then keeping a track of and marking things. All right, I'm galloping along here. Okay. Yes, the universal access path. Okay. Okay, so the update that I sent you in the discussion document has now also been further updated a couple of hours ago, and I will send it to you, which is an email from the person from Haley Ward that I met with on December 3rd, December 4th, which I've reported on and we've discussed. So it would appear that the town has in fact appointed this person. Now, in my discussion document, that had not happened. There was talk of it, but that was not in place. So I would suggest that as I said in the discussion document, I requested in writing for the Rauscher Farm project to be on the Permanent Building Committee meeting of March the 11th, i.e. yesterday. It was when the agenda was posted, it was not on the agenda because I again was trying to get confirmation of, is there someone in place to be the contractor? Okay. So that 11th meeting has now been moved to the 18th. However, I will request to go on it again. On the other hand, if I am also able to talk directly, CCing BBC and the town of Mike Ward wearing his other hats, you know, that I want to be able to find out how much she's asking. In the email you'll see, it's an email to the building inspector about what other planning is needed for the project, such as the because of the lean-to coming down, etc. So it's all gone up in the air again, okay, as in the last couple of hours. So I will forward that to you so that you have it for your reference points. I will attempt to see if I can get on the agenda on the 18th. And if I can, fine. If I can't, in any case, talk to Bethany Ordung of Haley Ward. Now, however, we still have the issue of the finances. So, as Bethany Ordung had intimated to me in December that the project could not be done for 144, the available 144K 500 was closer to 200K. But again, not an exact price. However, costs are going to go up. I mean, they've gone up since the project was first submitted to the Permanent Building Committee in December of 2023, where it languished until now. The costs have gone up with that, just because costs go up, the delay. And now, as we know, construction costs are likely to go up again for reasons called tariffs. So it's very hard to know what ultimately this project will cost. In the meantime, I still propose that we try and go ahead and put something on the warrant article for town meeting. But I also propose that we investigate other grant options. If we go and look for other grant funded money, i.e. the town does, we do all the research and the work, right? I would suggest that the element that we spin off from the design is very specifically the viewing platform. And I will, on our behalf, have Bethany Ordung give me a cost on that viewing platform, which will include taking down the trees around. So in other words, any ask for this project will be based on a very specific recreational ADA component, a viewing platform. Does this make, rather than trying to say, oh, please give us more money for this whole project? I believe if we
that does make sense, and it might mean that the existing $140,000
should cover the rest.
should be enough to cover the rest, yes.
Yeah, or if it's not, that's where we come in on the warrant article.
Right.
But as you know, grant aiding bodies, they like something that they can say they funded that makes them look good. And a very specific defined project, right? Such as the viewing platform to overlook Clamshell Pond at all seasons for people with limited mobility, or indeed anyone with a stroller and small children or whatever. It's what I would term a sexy ask. Your thoughts?
That's the highest visibility part of the project. I think that would be the most fundable.
Yeah. Okay. Christine, do you have thoughts?
I agreed with what Dean said and what Jim said. And if it's a contained fundraising goal for that platform, it may get more traction and be more achievable.
Okay. Dave?
Essentially what Christine said. Well said, Christine.
Well said, Christine. Alan?
Thanks, Dave.
All I can say is I wish the view was as good this year as it was a year or two ago, because those condominiums are going to be right in full view from the viewing platform. They're going up like crazy.
Yeah, I know.
We do still have the pond, and hopefully the condominiums don't scare away the blue heron and whatever, but maybe they will.
But if we weren't doing what we were doing, there wouldn't be anything, Alan. Console
That's right.
yourself with that,
Just
right?
my little gripe, sorry.
You can have, no, it's not a gripe. It's a passionate mourning. But, you know, we have to know that without a lot of effort from a lot of many people from various, it wasn't just one organization that saved Rauscher Farm. It was many, many people, grassroots from across, our community. So I know it's unfortunate, but we will persevere, everyone. We will persevere.
I feel better when I think of what my dad used to say. He said, people have to live somewhere, and it's true. Where I live right now
Yeah,
was once a beautiful forested place, I'm sure.
I know. Yeah. So
Also, I haven't looked recently, but with those, where all that new, construction is going up, will it be more hidden when there's leaves on the trees? Is there any such, hope there?
I think it will be, but I'm not quite sure how tall they're going, and I'm not sure if they're
Yeah.
done with the work. I haven't been over there for
Yeah,
maybe a
Yeah.
month.
and I haven't been all winter, so.
yeah, it has been a very torturous development, because the original developer went bust, and then it was sort of divided up into portions, and then there seems to be some sort of amalgamation, and so it's not a straightforward situation either. But we will do our part. We will do our part, right? And being Liverpool, being a city kid, never having access to anything, except some parks. That's all it takes sometimes.
That's true.
Unrestricted.
Being a kid from Charlestown, we could look out the window and see the elevated trains roar past. So, I mean, it's all relative, I guess.
Right. Anyway, shall we move on? Okay. Okay. So that's where we are, right? So that's our strategy. And we'll poke around and see what grantors exist that we could take to the town to say, apply for here for this X, Y, and Z. But that would not happen until after town meeting in June, right? We have to see we have to know what it's all up in the air, everybody, but not out of sight. All right. It has legs. Okay. Approaching organizations about how they tackled refurbishing, whatever their buildings didn't get any attention this month. So but there just was no extra time for reaching out. But if anyone wants to help me, we need to find contact people in these organizations. So if anyone wants to join in the hunt, we're looking at these organizations, and we need to find the person who knows what they're talking about in these organizations. And I am happy to form a subgroup of us to do that. So let me know. All right. Where's my, okay. So the opportunities, where am I up to? I've got no update on the people I had hoped to get engaged from the various educational establishments. Has not happened. So I'm now proposing that we go back and we try and get some recruits specifically for April the 26th, rather than asking to form a longer term plan at the moment, that we start small and say, can you send some student volunteers to April the 26th? Your thoughts, everybody? So again, it's a very specific ask. Come and help on this date to do this, which is where the planning of April the 26th comes in. Make sense? Go back to all the contacts again.
Yes,
See if you get anything.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. All right. Will do. Go back again.
Glow, I've got to jump off.
Okay. Thanks for, we still have
hey,
a quorum. Dave, if anything
if
comes.
I may,
Yep.
if I may, very briefly, two things. One, just let everybody know that a bobcat was seen in my yard last week, and I actually have a crappy picture of it. The second thing, more to, well, anyway, second thing is, in terms of violations, I noticed some tracks going by the lean-to up the hill. I noticed them after some snow. I don't know when it actually occurred. But I think we need to think at some point about maybe throwing some fencing up there, just something to stick in the back of our minds.
Okay.
I think
Trash
they just
by
drove up there.
by the hillside by the lean-to.
Sorry, do you say trash or tracks?
Tracks,
Tracks.
like somebody drove
Oh,
a truck
tracks.
up
I thought
there,
you
yeah.
said trash.
And are these like truck
No, no.
tracks or snowmobile tracks, do you know?
Yeah. No, truck tracks.
Okay,
Oh, wow.
But I didn't know, like I say, I noticed them after, I think it was after the snow or when the snow was melting or something. And of course, that was like last week or 2 weeks ago, maybe a couple of weeks
Yeah.
ago, I don't know. But they didn't look fresh when I saw them. So I don't know
Yeah.
how long they've been there. I think it was mainly because, the grass probably had gotten crushed and then the snow came on top of it. And then the things melt and blow
Yeah.
around and whatnot. You could see
Yeah.
them. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I mean, I'll certainly
Okay.
continue to keep an eye out, but all
Yeah,
right.
let's do
So
that.
I gotta get.
Okay. So Dave, just before you go, if you see anything, take a photo, take a cell phone snap.
Certainly will.
Okay. Anything like that, because you are literally the eyes on the ground up there. And even if we can't see, but at least we have, we have evidence and location.
Yep.
Okay. And thank you for your time tonight,
right.
Dave. Everybody else, we still
All
have
right,
a quorum.
everybody have a good evening.
You too, Dave.
Thank you, Dave.
Yeah.
But
We still
Thank
have
you.
a quorum.
Good night.
So
Jim,
just
do we have any cameras up there?
Well, I've got 4 cameras up there right now.
Well, I
But
meant that might have picked up any vehicles.
not in that field, no.
Uh,
I did put one for the winter overlooking the pasture from behind, the fence by the farmhouse that overlooks the pasture, mostly so I could keep track of any wildlife there, but also to, basically to see that people are actually using it, which would be good proof to have that people go there with their snowshoes and their skis and whatever, just to document that people do recreate on our fields.
Thank you.
okay. What am I looking at here now? Oh, communication, but I'm not right about. Well, oh yes, it's higher up in the discussion document. Lots of communication and outreach has been happening in the last several weeks, and one of the main things that this is thanks to Christine for all her lovely design work for the Nature is Imagination program, the 3-part program, right? Right, yes, thank you, everyone. Clap, 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 Christine.
Beautiful,
Isn't
beautiful
it?
slide.
Yes, it is. It is. So so what's gone out so far vis-a-vis that has been coming soon, right? And that all went out through, all the various avenues of communication. Today, for part 1, which is the session in the library on April 10th, April 12th. There's been lots of communication with Steve McGrath too, etc., etc. It was very easy going about anything, say, sure, looks lovely. Okay, so finally, the part 1 flyer and all its various manifestations is about to be circulated. What's been holding it a little bit is then getting the link from the library. I had sent you with this discussion document the hope for copy that would accompany the library registration page. However, when I finally saw it, the library has only used the copy that related directly to the April 12th event. I had tried to sort of shoehorn in a whole description on part 2 and the whole overall thing. But the library was only wanting to promote the actual event that's happening in the library. So with that in mind, turning on a dime, Christine took the coming soon, all those materials, has taken out coming soon, so that those promo materials become the description of the whole 3-part program, and that information will keep on being blasted out over the next several months. This is a 3-part program, blah, 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 as well as the second. So right now we are ready, i.e. this is when it all turns around and all gets dumped on Jim to put all of this stuff initially on the RF website as soon as possible. And I don't know, love, if you have any time tomorrow or not.
You can have the stuff. I should be able to do it tomorrow, aside from we have the call with what's his name about the forestry.
Okay, so
It should take until I see what you've got. I've already got the poster up there. Whatever else you need to add.
no, okay, so yes, that's what I'm saying. That poster is being removed.
Okay.
And the same looking poster without
right.
coming soon is
Yeah,
going to
that's easy.
replace it.
That's easy,
In
but
other
then
words-
also need the link to however we're linking to whatever we're
I've
linking
got
to.
that.
So,
I've got
okay.
that from the head of adult services. So we
right.
have all the pieces to get it on to the Rauscher Farm website.
Yeah.
And at that point, I do a MailChimp blast, either late Friday or Saturday, for part 1, the April 12th, because I've already done the mail, and also the Instagram, the Facebook, right?
Yeah.
And,
So I just need to, make sure that the replacement picture is the right size, which I can do myself. And the link, however I did it the last time, it should be, I'd say it should be an hour's work. So hopefully it's less than 2 days, right? So.
And Gloria, I sent an email later this afternoon with the updated with elements without coming soon. But within that email, I didn't send it to Jim. I don't know if he wanted me to forward it to him. But it would be what we had talked about, is putting the coming soon flyer without coming soon. The link, click here to link to the library, just like we had done for Winter Sow, Jim. And then it would be followed up with 2 more flyers, part 1 with a link to the library, and part 2 with the link to the email sign up for part 2. So people would see it there. I'll send you the email of what I'm thinking.
I can't even
No,
comprehend what you're saying without seeing
I'll
it.
send you
Yes.
I'll send you the email, but basically the front page, if it's possible, we would stack 3 flyers, the full program, part 1 and part 2, with a line of text below that would be hyperlinks to where people need to go. And then a block below that might say part 3. I'll send
I'm
you
sorry,
it. I'll send you a.
is there like a separate registration for each part? I don't know how
No,
to.
yes, there is, but hang on. I want, before we actually settle completely, I have a thought, which is that what Christine's describing is absolutely logical. Here's the whole program, here's part 1, and here's part 2, right? So the only library link will be underneath part 1.
Yeah, I'll send a mock-up of what
Okay,
I'm thinking, so
but
we can
here I
take this
have a
offline.
Except I have a question here, and it's about internet eyeballs. Okay. Because we've done coming soon, should we in fact be the description of coming soon without coming soon versus putting part 1 up first? So if someone literally flashes onto that website, the first thing they see would be part 1, which is what we're trying to register people for now. I'm just brainstorming. I don't know, because my thought is, if you don't get those eyeballs in 6 seconds. Have we already lost them before we get down to here's part 1, register at the library? In other words,
may I speak? The
Yep.
thing is, we do have an events page where everything is listed, right? Now, in the past, we've always wanted to put things on the front page, which we can still do, but it's usually one event. If we have 3 things that you have to scroll down through I mean, we have an events page that has all of that on it anyway. And are people going to scroll down through all 3 things and see it when they first come to the page, as opposed to going to the events page where all that stuff also is? I just don't know how far people click down before we just
well,
lose their interest and they
that's
leave, you
also,
know?
that's my concern, but I'm suggesting, given in the interest of time, that part 1 in the library with the library underneath, let's say we put that on the home page. And let's say we then go and then say see more on the events page, then we take them to here's the whole program, here's part 1 and here's part 2. But then we'd be rotating off that events page when we get to part 2.
It makes sense, because if that way we just have the one poster up there, we could say here's registration, and then we could also have another link that says the other things. Let's see the events page, and then as they come up, we can rotate those to the front page. So we only ever have the one event on the front page. Is that right?
Yeah. And if we did that, we clearly say for this events page for this 3-part program and parts 2 and 3.
And also bear in mind, the front page is where we have welcome to Rauscher Farm. Here's the map. Here's what we are. And that's pushed so far down, nobody's ever going to see that if we have too much stuff there too.
Well, you see, the reason for my concern about having part 1 right up there, right? The difficulty is this is a brand new type concept for us to do, a 3-part program. And, it's very tricky. Once we've established something like this, next year it should theoretically get easier. So if we have part 1, if people are looking at that on their phones, that's the only thing they're really going to see.
Right.
And we want them to register at the library ASAP so that we fill that registration as soon as we can. We only have a month between now and this event. And that's my bad for not managing to get everything super efficient ahead of time. So, Christine, this might make you grind your teeth.
No, I'm game.
So if we put part 1 up, right, as we normally would, but I need to also send Jim part 2. So we're going to forward to Jim what you've just forwarded to me, coming soon without coming soon, right? So I'll forward him that one. And I'll also send him a part 2 slide, right? So the overview and part 2 will be on the events page. Jim?
The overview and parts correct. And part 1 is also on the events page. Everything is on the events page.
Okay, everything's on the events page, right? Okay, so
Yeah.
one overview, parts 1 and 2 are on the events page. On the home page, part 1, register here, right? At the library link.
And even though there is a link to the events page right on the top of the website, we could put another link right there under the part 1 saying, here's a link to,
Yes,
further
let's do that.
information on these
Let's
events
do
or
that.
something, right?
Yes, let's do that.
That's how
writing-
Winter So appears now.
Is it?
Yeah, so if you
Winter
go
So-
to
Winter So is-
if you go to the 2025 events page,
Winter So should be long gone. Wait a minute.
oh no, not on the front page, on the
On the events
2025.
Okay,
page.
yes, right. Okay, yeah. Well, that's what I always do on that. As new events come in, I just push everything south and put the new ones on top.
So I'm gonna send an email, attention Jim, that has the all events page, all events slide, part 1 and part 2, and then he can put them where he wants them to be, so you don't have to fish them out. I'll also include the link to the library registration page, so it'll just be everything he needs in one email to set up the web pages.
Terrific. That would be great.
Okay. Now, the one other thing in all of this, gang, is between parts 1 and 2 is Give Nature a Hand, April, also in April, right? So, once we've So basically, from the 12th of April, part one is only on the events page, and the volunteer slide for the 26th is on the front page. I'm asking, right? And then the moment 26 has gone by, part two goes onto the home page. Yes? Hello? What do we think?
I guess, whatever. You have in your head when all the dates are for all these events,
Well,
so I
that's the
can't
trouble.
answer
They're all
those.
they intercut, you see.
No, I'm talking about the three, nature as
Yes, right. And we
imagination.
haven't got to the third one yet, which is the exhibit. But the other thing is, okay, the document that I sent, which I sent to you folks, the document that I was hoping would go on the Word document, the library description, somehow that document, which I have to tweak a bit, which explains all of it in verbiage. What do we put that up? Or do I only put up a small subsection of that says if you can't make these events, don't worry, do it in your own time?
I mean, I could put up a PDF with a link, but it's going to be turned into, the whole thing's going to turn into such a circus poster. How is anybody going to find what we want them to see,
Oh, I know. No. Anyway, maybe we talk about this offline, right? Okay. Christine, can you spend a couple of minutes while after I close this meeting?
Depends on timing.
Depends on timing. Okay. All right. Well, okay. Well, love you all. We'll work it out. As long as we got those, we've agreed on the positioning of the visuals. And I'll worry about some of the verbiage on the other thing, which may simply come to Jim underneath that page one. Okay,
And just
moving
as a
on.
slight aside, you just mentioned the new website. I think I got like 7 more pages I need to create out of the 45 or 50, which means I'm pretty close to the,
Going
light at the
live?
end of the tunnel. But
Yes.
no, but then going live was another whole issue, right? Because then I have this entire site sitting on my local computer and backed up. But then I have to upload it. And when I upload it, I want to move it to its own separate site, because right now this is all hosted under your and my personal space.
Right.
And
Okay.
when I do that, the whole site might go dark for a couple of days when I have to move it, and I have to work out even how to do that with the service provider, our service provider. Our service provider, we set up a new site, also has to install special tools at our end, at that end to work with our WordPress site. And I have to even figure out physically how to upload this thing, which is not rocket science, but I haven't got to that part of the problem yet. So I'm saying there's a point when we have to go dark for a few days to sort out the puzzle, and we don't want to do it in the middle of stuff,
Yeah, right. Okay. So the timing of that is also around the events. Yeah, that's what we're saying.
Could be,
Right.
yes. Again, it's
Yes.
the puzzle of finishing the site is a small problem at this point. Figuring out how to upload and install the site on a new location, because once I create a new location, where RauscherFarm.org will be pointed to a completely different place. So our old site won't be found anymore. So that's, we have to be careful about that.
Okay.
Can
And
you
I'll send,
pilot it with a couple of pages and just see if the links work and so forth before you have to migrate the whole site?
Well, I want to set up this whole site to be specifically the RauscherFarm.org site, though, I mean, I could call it something else, but we want to point
Oh.
RauscherFarm.org to that new site rather
Sure.
than where it is right now. Because right now it's in a subfolder within a subfolder on Jim and Gloria's personal space, where I can have multiple sites.
right. And it does. You know what? We're almost there. Compared to,
Mhm.
I mean, it has always been the difficulty with the Rauscher Farm site has been, unlike other sites which are thus there to say, oh, hello, everyone, this is happening now. By definition, the Rauscher Farm site is archival. It is a record of the whole Rauscher Farm project from the campaign by this whole grassroots collaboration to have it be conservation and recreational property.
And not just that, but a lot of explanation, especially on the new site, which, none of you have been through yet, but I have lots of pages and subpages on habitats, wetlands, clamshell pond with subpages on eradicating the invasive species and so on and so on. You know, which is, so it's
Yeah,
not
okay.
just archival, it's also literally giving drill down on habitat, and then elsewise giving habitat down on recreation, as you've done on the side of posters on the side of the barn, except I'm sort of rearranging things, you know, which is part of the huge three-dimensional chess puzzle here.
Okay, so let's say we get as far as we can tomorrow.
Mhm.
Jim, you're not available on Friday, and we finish it
Right.
off on Saturday.
Yeah.
Christine, with a bit, that might mean a bit of emailing back and forth to you over the next couple of days. Is that okay with you or not?
Yep.
And that means I can do a MailChimp blast on Sunday or late Saturday, depending, right? And at that point, everything goes out. Facebook, Instagram, and it's going out. Christina's designed this as an event, you know, one of those event things on Facebook. So I will do both. I will both post and also it will be an event. Okay. It is an interesting concept to be able to say to people, this nature's imagination from this point on is likely to be a multifaceted program. And I'm not going to say it like that, and I'm not going to say it absolutely right, but it's, you know, okay, all right. Shall I keep going so that people can actually get to, okay. Okay, I'd like to just touch on the fact that the drone policy, David's gone off now. I don't feel so time pressured about this because it doesn't really suit nature's imagination, because by definition, that program is asking people to look at nature close up. So when we first started the discussion, it was, oh, can we have drone images? Well, they're not really what the program's about. The program is about having a close look at nature and feeling the connection and then taking your picture, right? So I'm hoping that it's a moot point. And on the other hand, we do need to come back to it because goodness knows there's a whole lot of variation in policies. So I will keep it on the agenda for next month, gang. All right. And moving along. Development. Okay, drug. Programs. No, the only thing I'd like to say about programs, you will notice that the spelling of freshwater jellyfish has now been amended throughout, Dean, to one word. As was the discussion in the last month, right? So we only have a single word to describe jellyfish. I'm just going to float this out as a possible brainstorming balloon, not for now. Nature's Imagination 2026. Oh, there's no flies on us here. If this 2025 was about eyes, making connection with nature using eyes, your biological eyes and the eyes, the lens of your camera, right? What do we think Nature as Imagination 26 is the sounds of nature on Rauscher Farm? Which would be, I have no idea how we would do this yet. You have to, if we thought this was a good idea, we'd research it. It would be a program for participants to generate soundscapes of what they hear, or even music, putting it, you know, composing music around the sounds that they hear. One of the intriguing things, if we did do sound, is this could be a possible program to include seeing impaired individuals for whom we, at the moment, we don't offer anything to this demographic. If we thought this was something worth investigating, I think the key part would be to find professionals who would work with us. In other words, professionals who work with that seeing impaired demographics to explore it, not just jump in and think we know what we're doing and, you know. Anyway,
You'd have
I'm
to
just
get
throwing,
experts. You'd have to, I wouldn't even know where to begin. You'd have to have some kind of experts. I'm
Yeah.
picturing now Gene Hackman in the conversation, but that's not what we're
that's
doing, right?
sort of, this is all, you know, when you try and distract yourself from other news events, and then you bump into that very sad one. Yes, I mean, hearing, I mean, that's all I'm saying. I go, it's just popped out of my head.
Other than
But
bird
there,
sounds, I'm not, we could sit in the woods at night and listen to, things crawling through the leaves or whatever. I'm not quite sure what we're
no,
listening to,
well, having in my past, had a number of seeing impaired friends,
Mhm.
and read for them, and also having years ago in England, and he also came and stayed with us in America, a
Remember
seeing
him.
impaired friend who was a teacher, right? Um, that's what I think. I'm suggesting might be the starting point.
There might be a collaboration opportunity with the Perkins School for the Blind in Lancaster as
That's
well.
yes. Now,
So is Lancaster Perkins School for the Blind? I thought that was a different Perkins school.
No.
They listed as it being part of, I think it's Watertown with a satellite location in Lancaster.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it seems that campus though seems to have, at the moment, be more catering for a different demographic. So again, research, just like we always do for everything. It's really, do we find the idea of going from eyes to ears intriguing?
I do.
Okay,
I'm
Alan,
I'm hearing a steady ringing that's always there. We could, report on that. That's
no, we're not going to do your tinnitus, love. That's really not the point of this. Um,
Mine's like a
Dean,
buzz.
Dean, how does this, certainly as a concept, grab you at the moment for next year?
I
think
think
for-
that it sounds interesting. I'd like to, I think that we want to make sure that we've got folks who are interested in doing this.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. Christine, what do you think?
So long as there's availability that we consider people's tools and being able to present or capture,
Yeah.
that we don't make it so exclusive that you need specific equipment in order to participate, that there's opportunities for access in the technologies or the media that people want to use.
Okay.
Because I think, the
I'm
question in
again
my
thinking
mind,
smartphones here.
yeah, and I'm thinking more like, people with microphones on booms like you see for, professional sound equipment, which nobody's gonna have,
No,
so.
I don't mean, well, it's the same, I think it comes down to the same issue as with this year, we're not trying to say this is only for people with $5,000 lenses,
So
right?
the Merlin application, the smartphone app, it's produced by Cornell University.
Yeah.
For identifying birds by sound is free and pretty easy to use, and maybe that could be a piece of it.
Which it could be part of it. They hear something on that app, but they hear it on Rauscher Farm, and yet there may be a way, again, it would have to be a rights issue with the Merlin app as to whether their actual recording could be incorporated.
And do we need to limit it to recordings? Can it be people are inspired by sound on Rauscher Farm and that could be generated into a painting or something
Yes.
visual as well, that we
Or
don't
a
limit
song.
that,
Yeah.
right,
A
that we don't
song, a
limit,
song.
we don't limit how they interpret the expression
Correct,
of the
yes.
sound, but they're inspired by the sound.
Yes,
We
I
could
think
have,
that's a
we could have,
good
we
point.
could,
Yeah.
we could have Alan
Yeah.
write a Bullfrog symphony on his bass.
Alan, yes, on your bass, the bullfrog symphony. I love it.
I like that.
But we could use all these examples, right? For musicians who have a musical instrument. Yeah, right. We might have to get you to do a test run on this as a promo for it, Alan.
Okay, well, I'll need some things higher in the spectrum with me, like ukuleles, mandolins.
Well, we could do that. This
And
can
then
all be provided.
I
that's
could
right.
bring my,
Again,
bring
it's
my-
open. It's imagination, everyone. It's imagination.
I can bring my
Right.
electric mandolin with my portable amp and put some, weird unclean sounds on it, but all I ever do is play
There we
clean. I don't
go.
even know what those things are. Distortion, I guess, right?
But listen to us all, okay? Listen to us all. Now, this conversation. Ping, 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 ping. Right? That to me suggests this could be really worth investigating. It is not limited to a recording of a hawk screeching for prey, although we can go out and get David Ammerman to find a hawk screeching for prey. There's resources here. I'm not saying that the seeing impairment is the only component. It's everything. It's everybody, I mean, and this could be a way into the schools, talk to the musician teachers to have a project, Anyway, shall we explore more? I'm not hearing any oh no, let's not do it at this point, right? I am hearing a lot of suddenly you all became creative, right? All right. Wow. What a team we are. Okay, that's me. That's the agenda, I believe, unless we have our next meeting, which is on April the 9th.
Just circling back to the working on Rauscher Farm on the 26th of April,
Yeah.
Gloria. I can get those flyers to you if I have the images.
I can feel you twisting my arm behind my back, Christine. You will have, I've got them all anyway. I've actually got them. I just have to, fish out another of my thumb drives and
if it's easier for the thumb drives, we have that shared drive that you posted an image to not too long ago. We can do it through Dropbox, so you don't have to physically transport if that saves you.
You're going to have to re-educate. I totally forgot.
I'll send you the link again. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that would. Yes, I keep forgetting about modern technology. It's my version of clinging to print in the form of a thumb drive.
Kurt Vonnegut was still using postcards, up to his demise.
I have I covered everything? Have I covered the agenda, everyone? I think I have. Yeah. Anyone think of anything I've missed? If not, we have
Just a
our
couple of suggestions for you about the sound piece, if
Yeah.
you're particularly interested in assisting visually impaired folks. I don't have time to pursue them myself, but you might try Mass Commission for the Blind. And
wait. Let me write it down. Don't go too
my
fast.
ex-wife worked at Perkins School for the Blind in Watertown.
Yes. Okay. The
By Mass Commission of the Blind, MCB, and blind people are a particularly well provisioned set of people with social needs. There's been a lot of support for services for visually impaired people, and so you'll find a lot of resources. So I try MCB. And also a possibility would be to ask Audubon, because it wouldn't surprise me that Audubon has done something along these lines as well. And I'll also say that in terms of Perkins School for the Blind, able kind of average intelligence blind people are not in institutions. The people that you find in these institutional settings tend to have multiple disabilities, including or particularly intellectual disabilities.
So I think that, in other words, these obviously, I mean, because I've had all these friends. And I will share one very funny story if you've just got 1 minute. Which there was a friend, and she was actually English, but she was a lawyer, and she was in America, and she was doing a fellowship. She was an international lawyer, and she was doing an international fellowship at Harvard when I first met her, and we became we became friends. I started off volunteering to read for her, and then we subsequently became friends, and she and her husband lived around the corner from us.
We also became the home for her retired guide dog
Yeah,
when
that
she had to go
we did.
someplace with her working dogs. And
Yes, she couldn't bear to part with her dog when her dog really got too old to be a worker. So she kept that dog, got another dog, and we would end up maybe, having the retired dog at our house with our dog as well if she had to be away. But the real funny part was she had not been born blind, so she did have a visual memory. And she and I used always to go to the MFA to exhibit special exhibits and that was fine because this isn't the day before all the magic. We would just stand in front of something and I would just describe the whole picture to her, right? Okay, so she could conjure it in her mind. Well, this particular exhibit was absolutely popular, and I can't remember. Jim and this friend and myself were going in a very, very ancient, rickety old car, which was the only car we possessed at the time.
Spot the Wonder Car. Yes.
Spot the Wonder Car. And so when you get to the MFA, you sort of there's the car park. You can't use it now. It's for special parties, and you park on the left in the car park. But then that was the only mainly car park. So there was the huge line down off Huntington Ave to turn along the side of the MFA into this car park. And it was going very slowly. And, they were saying, oh, we can't let you in. So my friend wound down the window of this ancient car.
There was handicap parking in that lot.
There was handicap parking in this car park, and everybody else was 50-10. So she wound down the window of this car, pulled up, made us pull out from the waiting line. So we're now going down the middle of the road. And she started
past all the BMWs and Mercedes and spot the Wonder Car. Yes.
Yes. This car really was a mess. It was covered in paint. So she said, come on. She said, come into the middle and just drive. I will take care of this. So we drive down, and she is now screaming at the top of her voice, make room, blind girl coming. Make room, blind girl coming. And they all melted away, and we actually got in anyway. So yes, anyway. Enough
all
of
those
this.
all those people in the posh cars want to know, well, why is a blind girl going to an art exhibit? But there you go.
Right, I know. But that's what we did regularly. Went to art exhibits.
One more little thing. She used to be on Christopher Lydon fairly often with her guide dog laying at her feet, talking about, what was it, Poland or Czech? I've sort of lost track. It was Poland, right?
Was it? It was one of the Eastern. It was one of the.
She was an expert on Eastern Europe, so she'd be on to comment when there was stuff going on with her dog at her feet, being interviewed by Christopher Lydon.
And there would always be the talk backwards and forwards, and then the camera would just pan down to Becky. the seeing eye. Anyway, okay, enough, everyone. I need to, obviously, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Adjourn, I'd like to make.
Okay, 7:27. Okay. Motion to adjourn is made by Dean at 7:20. 7:20.
I see a hand. Was that Alan?
It is, yeah.
Okay, we get seconded. Okay, got that. And okay, roll call vote, everybody.
Dean, I.
Christine, I.
Alan, I.
Gloria, I.
Am I?
Okay, approved. Thank you, everyone, for your time tonight. Thank you for all of your excellent suggestions, as always. Right, we are the team. Excellent, excellent, excellent. So I will now formally, hang on. I can't know if I do this. I did this wrong last week. I'm going to stop recording as we are no longer in public meeting. Oh, pause. No, pause and stop recording.